You're listening to Super's Corner on WHIT Radio.org. Here's your host, John Pluchino, with Superintendent Frank Gargiulo of Hudson County Schools of Technology on WHIT Radio.org.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Super's Corner with Frank Gargiulo, the Superintendent of Schools, Hudson County Schools of Technology here in North Bergen, New Jersey. I'm your host, John Pluchino, and we're going to continue our talk from last week on the book 10 Steps to the Learning Process by Peter Klein and Bernard Sanders. And last week our show was entitled The Edge of Chaos, but today we're going to change that a little bit. We're going to talk, I'm going to name this show Why Traditional Training or Education Just Does Not Work. And you can agree with me or not agree with me, Mr. Gargiulo, but we'll go on. The book says traditional training does not work. Participants are expected to sit passively and take it all in. There's not any kind of notion that whatever they think is important, and the person that's being educated really has no rights concerning his education. So I kind of start off like that. Your thoughts on it and how you feel?
Yeah, I don't think it's so much that education doesn't work. It's more that it's irrelevant.
Okay.
And so there is a fine line there, but it's the people who are in our school systems today, the teachers, the administrators are very competent people and work very hard. I don't want to give the wrong impression that the teachers and administrators that are working right now are not working hard. But the problem with it is that they're working in a world that no longer exists. Mm-hmm. And I think it's pretty obvious that if you're alerting around the community in general, things have changed. A school that was good enough, actually when that book was written, is not good enough today. And things have changed so significantly. I think depending on who you speak to, they talk about knowledge, and knowledge base is what the schools are about. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't be, but that's what they're about. Right. Giving more and more information to kids, and
asking them to regurgitate it later on, right?
Kind of like that. It's more memorization, and not a lot of thinking skills to it. Right. And we pretty much do the same thing today. We have a course curriculum, Algebra 1. In fact, the state's pushing it right now. Algebra 1, Algebra 2, biology, whatever. And it's a canned thing. You teach the kids this, we test them, they give you it back. Right. The problem with that is, in this day and age that we live in, right, that just take biology as a perfect example. The amount of science is probably doubling maybe every 2 or 3 months now. You couldn't teach a kid enough science. All you can do is teach them the basis to learn more science, and show them how to discover more science and do things with the discovery pieces. If you think you're going to teach a kid by telling them all these kind of stuff, more and more stuff, right, you're not teaching them anything, because today's world requires learning. Because what biology is today, it may not be the same thing in 5 years from now.
Yeah, sure.
So thinking people is what we need. The education needs to shift from teaching to learning. The learning piece is the big thing.
For everyone. I mean, you're saying not only just for the students. Here you're saying for the administrators, teachers, parents.
Yeah, the school is the 21st century school is a learning community. It's the first time in history where the kids come in some aspects knowing more than the teachers, especially in the technology pieces.
Oh, we're immigrant learners. Our computer skills, I know you and I, we're immigrant learners. We're catching up. I mean, they come in with it.
Absolutely. And the skill's much harder to learn at our age.
Right.
Whereas my granddaughters and grandchildren are texting and moving stuff around and able to do things on a computer I couldn't even dream of.
Right. It's second nature to them. It's natural. I want to run some of these thoughts by you and then have your comments. In education, one size does not fit all. There are crucial differences among all learners. essentially in the United States we have 300 million different learners because everybody learns differently. I mean, we break them down into categories, subgroups, and you're kinesthetic, you're this and that, but there's varying degrees for everybody. Awareness of differences in learning styles should be the cornerstone of any education or training program. So I want to have your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that's partially true, but since that book is written, is only partially true. And because, we spend a lot of time. Gardner has, since that, along with that book, has come up with that people are intelligent in a lot of different ways. And there's a whole bunch of stuff out there in terms of learning styles, who learns visually, who learns auditorially, who learns kinesthetically, and it's all well and good. But it all boils down to one thing. And really, you don't learn anything unless you're interested, period. It doesn't matter if you're a visual learner, an auditory learner, a kinesthetic learner, whatever kind of learner you are. You're not going to learn anything unless you're interested. Once you're interested, then you will learn visually, auditory, however it is. It's not the opposite. It's not the fact that you're an auditory learner, therefore I'm going to give you more stuff through your ears, and you're going to learn it. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is the fact that you are interested in the first place. That's how learning takes place. It's a discovery piece. That's the problem with the education. We shove things at kids. You'll learn this. And now we're trying to say, you're going to learn quadratics. And because you're a visual learner, we're going to show you it on the blackboard. And because you're an auditory learner, we're going to show it through your ears, even though you're not interested.
Right.
So before you get to that piece, the piece is the interest.
So if a student says, I'm not interested in math, I mean, I want to be able to balance a checkbook and measure my room and put a rug in, which basically, for most people, that's one of the main things you do with math. What should they be able to do? Have an option to say, I don't want to take the math courses, or just how would you structure it for a child?
No, I think that as we get better and better in the 21st century, the disciplines are going to disappear. The world is not a world of math or a world of science or a world of language arts or a world of anything like that. It's a combination. Everything has math in it. Everything has science in it. Everything requires language skills. So what we need to get good at in education is to integrate that stuff. So if I'm going to teach you through your interest, then I got to find out what your interest is. If your interest is a singer, then I should educate you that way, through that vehicle.
That piece.
That doesn't mean that as you go along, you're going to have to know notes, you're going to have to know beats. It all involves a lot of math and some science. But that bit, you'll learn. If you need to buy a house or you need to buy a car, you'll learn a little bit more about math. Or whatever it is. So again, if you agree with the fact that you don't learn what you're interested in, then why not teach to a kid's interest?
Well, I'm just going to take the devil's advocate because I'm with you basically on this. But a lot of the math teachers that I talk to don't see project based for mathematics. They maybe for a project later on applied math, but for the basics, I think that group of any group kind of is rebelling against that. That's where what I'm hearing.
I think you're right, John. That's because we're requiring kids to take all kinds of math stuff that has little relevance to them. I mean, it's always in order to go to college, you need 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is of math. In order to go to college, you need this. You don't. That's a whole bunch of baloney. The fact of the matter is, you need math to accomplish what you're interested in. And if you were going through and you wanted to be, you said to me you want to be a doctor. Of course, the first thing I would do is send you to meet with a couple of doctors, find out what they had to do to get to where they are, what courses they had to take, how much math, how much science they had to know. Now you know what you have to know. Once you map that out, then we're going to make sure you get all the math you need for that, all the science you need for that, but it's driven by what you want to do. And on the same token, if another kid came and said, I want to be a farmer, that's a whole different thing. And now you learn math in a different applied way.
I think that piece is important. You go to the person that has that profession.
It's the whole key.
You go to see a farmer. Go see a doctor. Go see a lawyer. How did they get to where they are?
Well, the math becomes important, or the science becomes important, or the language arts becomes important because you have an interest. It doesn't matter what the interest is. It doesn't matter because everything is integrated. There's not one thing in this world that we live in that doesn't integrate all those pieces. It's when you pull them apart and you say you have to learn quadratics and factoring and unknowns because in case you may become an astronaut or something like that.
You'll have it, yeah. But you're basically saying, what's your big picture? What's your big picture? Now fill it in. What do you want to be a lawyer? That's the big picture. Now fill it in what you need for that profession.
It's a thinking skill, John. Right. In order for you to accomplish what you will need to accomplish, you have to understand where you have to go and how you're going to get there. In order for that to happen, you have to go through a process.
Right.
And the school should help you with that process so that no matter what information you gather, you could put it together because you have a direction, a goal, and you know how to do it. You know how to find out what you need to know. You know how to research it. You know how to put it together and how to work with it. For us to teach mathematics or anything by itself in the 21st century is not helpful.
That direction piece is missing. Why am I studying this, and where is it leading me? So you're missing that piece.
Exactly.
Important
exactly.
Piece.
If a student's going in, and we have these project schools that we started here, and some of them are truly self-directed. Some are not, because we're working on it ourselves. But when a kid designs a project for themselves, it doesn't matter what the project is. You're assuming that that's what interests that student. Once you develop that interest, supposedly what should happen is that student gets hooked up with a professional, a person who does what they're asking they want to do, a doctor, lawyer, engineer, fireman, whatever it is. And finds out what has to be done, what steps have to be taken to get to that point. Once they do that, you help them design, you help them, the advisor helps them put that together. But it's all a thinking process on the part of the kid.
That person is important too. I think that person that they're modeling their career after is with them. It's just isn't a one-shot thing. I like to see that fireman or whatever be with that kid for 4 years in some capacity.
Well, that's the big piece that needs to be worked on. 'Cause getting the community involved, and most people will.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a fireman or a cop, it'd be wonderful to have a kid a couple hours a week to just talk to him about what we do and how we do it and why we do it and how we got here and that kind of stuff.
I think that piece is missing. I mean, that's an important community piece.
We teach in isolation.
I agree with that.
We teach a bunch of facts that are irrelevant to a kid's life. That's why I said earlier, it's not that the education isn't good, it's irrelevant. We teach a lot of stuff that doesn't relate to the world.
Right.
I mean, a guy like Gates and the people that are successful today was successful because they had, I use Gates because there's sort of a little thing about him. He was successful in school. He went to good schools. He dropped out. He dropped out. Yeah. You know why he dropped out?
No.
He was a geek. Yeah. He was a computer. He wanted to play on the computer. He loved programming. That's all he wanted to do.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted to do is program. And he programmed, I forget how many, 10,000 or 50,000 whatever hours he put into. And just so happened, because he loved that piece and he followed his interest, he could have been a graduate from Harvard.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would have been any wealthier than he is now.
No, he can't. Do you know the story behind that? IBM, he offered it to IBM for $10,000, his software, and they turned it down. And it was adopted, and now for everybody that buys one of his software pieces, he gets...
Yeah, but that happened because he followed his interest.
Right.
You know what I mean? He loved programming. Even, in fact, if you read his little biography, when he was in high school, there was not many computers around. And so they got these guys that let them use their computer in the hospital, let them use their computers at night when they weren't using them, because they loved that programming, him and a couple other kids. They just loved them to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it took them to where it was.
Took them where it wanted to go.
And you can find most people who are successful have successful, and those kind of people.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll pick up that conversation. Okay. Listen to Super's Corner right here at Hudson County Schools of Technology, WHIT Radio.org.
Hudson County Schools of Technology's High-Tech High School is 480 students strong. It draws highly talented academic and artistic students from throughout the county. I'm Carol Brancato, principal of High-Tech High School. Over 95% of our students attend four-year colleges and universities. Our recognitions include the Governor's School of Excellence and 2 prestigious New Jersey Star School Awards. Family PC Magazine identified High Tech as a top 100 high school utilizing technology in the United States.
I'm Frank Gargiulo, Superintendent of the Hudson County Schools of Technology. We are a dedicated, caring, multidimensional learning community. Utilizing a creative, well-trained staff, challenging curriculum, and state-of-the-art resources, we prepare our leaders of tomorrow today. Please support High Tech High School by logging on to Radio.org.
Okay. We're back. This is Super's Corner. We're broadcasting from the WHIT radio studios in Hudson County Schools of Technology. We're with Frank Gargiulo, the Superintendent of Schools, and I'm your moderator, John Pluchino. Now, I want to pick up a little bit what we were talking about when we had to go to the break. We're talking about Bill Gates. We're talking about how his passion was programming, and that's all that he did. So is the key here to be totally immersed in what you're interested in? Is the immersion process the key to real learning? You know, say you want to learn French. Well, go to a place that all they do is speak French, and you know, for a couple of weeks and something like that. How would you talk about that? How would you feel about that?
Well, I feel very strongly that that interest drives learning, and if a person isn't interested, there's no learning taking place. And if just think of the way our schools are structured right now. Just think of it in your own head. As everybody went to school, right? And you know that a lot of the kids weren't. Some of them are interested. Don't get me wrong, and they do okay. But most of the kids, I don't think I'm going on a limb, are not interested. Right. Therefore, true learning doesn't take place. A lot of their learning that those kids get is outside the school. It's not in the school. Right. You know, if we're a school and we're trying to structure more learning, then we need to get a lot more broad-based in ourselves. We're very sectionalized, and that piece alone limits. Learning today is putting pieces together to make new pieces. There's so many pieces, when I say pieces, information that's coming at us all different ways. You need to be able to manage that and take pieces you need and put them together to make new pieces, kind of. And if you don't follow your interest, it's not going to happen. The old system, the school systems that we're in right now, the industrial model, was a model to filter kids. The top 10% were the managers, the middle 10% were the semi-skilled and partially skilled workers, and the last few were the unskilled. Well, the unskilled workers are gone. The semi-skilled workers, which are really left-brain people, are exported to other countries. So it's only the top piece. Okay? Now that top piece has to expand. And how does it expand? It means because we're global, there's room for a lot of thing there. So what's going to make our people get those jobs rather than somebody from India or China or some other place in the world? It's that creativity piece. Right. And the creativity piece comes with kids having the ability to take risk, and then once they take the risk, have the qualities to put information together to do something with it. Interest. If the student's not following their interest, they're really not learning. So a lot of times when we say kids lazy or unmotivated, it really his interests haven't been tapped. We can't find them, or they're hidden, or he's telling us it, but they don't fit into what we're teaching. I mean, I think that a lot of students are categorized as slow, and they're actually bored. There's no such thing as smart kids and dumb kids. There is no such thing. We set up a system to categorize people. I mean, and I hate to say this because we do it in our own schools, but we have honors programs, advanced placement programs, the Honor Society, the Spanish Honor Society. We have all kinds of things to section kids. Well, the only difference between those kids and other kids is those kids are interested in that stuff, and that's okay for them. That doesn't make them better than the other kids. The problem is we haven't been able to capture the interest of the other kids. I mean, that's the whole key. And most teachers come from that
that Spanish Honor Society or from the English Honor Society. They come from that group, so they don't connect sometimes.
Yeah, teachers are in a I use the term left brain, but from a concrete sequential piece. In fact, more and more teachers are going to come in that realm because the state has set up a certification process that requires paper and pencil tests that left brain people do the best on.
Right.
But the left brain people are not the best for what we need. You know, a perfect example, John, is the car companies that are out there. Why can't American car companies compete? What's the problem? Somebody says, well, the labor is too high and all that. That's not why we can't compete. I mean, Mercedes is competing very well, and their cars are a lot more expensive than anybody else's. What makes them competitive?
Styling, no.
It's the designing piece. It's all of that. It's the engineering, the designing. What Americans can't do that?
Well, you used to be able to do it.
Well, we lost our ability to be creative.
You remember the cars from the 50s and 60s? I remember every year, basically. Yeah. I could tell you Chevy from 54 to 64, you know.
I saw a Studebaker down the shore, an old-time Studebaker. I think it was a 57 or 56 convertible Studebaker. Was gorgeous. I said to my wife, why can't we make a car like that?
Right.
What's the problem with it? Then I looked in front of me. I saw all these SUVs. They all look the same.
Everyone looks the same. And all the you can't tell a difference. The Cadillac used to stand out. How many Cadillacs go by? You don't even know they're a Cadillac.
John, again, the system. The educational system has become irrelevant in the 21st century. If you want to stay competitive, you better get creative. In order to be creative, you need to take the gloves off. You need to follow a kid's interest, stop evaluating, and start validating, and you'll see a whole change in the society. And then you'll be competitive. Right.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about learning itself. It says, the book says, involve all your senses in learning. Babies learn to speak and communicate without formal instruction. They're surrounded by people who are eager to help them and by joining with them in the play of learning. So I want to talk about the play of learning. That's, you know, a kid that comes into first grade loves school. And when they interview the same kids in 8th grade, 80% of them hate school. What happened in the 7 years of school is that the play went out of school. And how do we get that back in to school? You know, that aspect.
Well, let's go back to the original premise of that. Every kid comes into school with having accomplished one of the hardest things, learning a complete language with a whole vocabulary and a whole bunch of speaking skills, and they also have some other things they come in school with. They come in school with a sense of discovery. If you ever notice a little kid when you're with them and the parents are with them, if you let them alone, they'll always go to someplace. Now, let's say there's something where they shouldn't be. The parent will take them away and put them someplace else. They'll go right back again. Right. That sense of discovery is innate in human beings. So a student learns to walk and learns to talk and learns to be lovable or not lovable, depending on what the atmosphere is and where they fun. But that stuff is self-taught. There's no teacher. That happens because the human beings have a need to survive in the system they're in, and so and they also have minds that are very geared towards discovery. In the first grade or the kindergarten, that doesn't change. They have a lot of project-based stuff. There's no grades on it. They're not evaluated. Once you start the first bad thing, once you start the testing. And because every kid in the class knows when you go, when the red readers are over here and the blue readers are over here and the yellow readers are over, they know who's who. Doesn't take, and in the first, second grade, they know if you're doing that. And then as you move up the ladder, once you start to sectionalize them, math class, history class, dead. Irrelevancy sets in a big piece. 10% of those kids will be all right because those kids you can't hurt. They can do anything. The rest of us, we're in trouble.
As soon as the labels start going on the kids, you know, oh, he's in the turtle group, he's in the dove group, you know, and they carry that, and then they start seeing the other kids inferior or superior to themselves, and so we're talking really that learning. We're trying the 21st century model of education is learning should be self-directed, entirely experiential, involving the whole being, according to books. So I want to kind of talk the last part of our show here, the 3 essentials characteristics of successful learning. Let's talk about the first one. Learning must come through the work itself. Learning is not separate from doing. You want to comment on that one? It's not separate. We've been talking about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that just restates what I've been saying the whole show, is that you can't, when you walk out into the world, you don't walk out into the math world, the science world. It's all integrated.
Right.
And everything you do and everything we do, you don't separate that stuff.
Right.
And so what happens is that the kid doesn't get an authentic way of dealing with the 21st century.
Right.
In fact, it was never any good. It was good for the industrial age and good for the factory mentality, because it gave them workers.
Right.
But it was never good for learning. It never helped us develop real geniuses in the country or anything like that. Although we had our share.
Right.
But never well, you take Europe in the 15th century in the Renaissance.
Oh, look at the people they produced.
That's
Da Vinci and Michelangelo.
Absolutely, but that was a non-risk type of environment and no validations. You either good or
you did something
farming.
else.
You did something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you followed your interest.
Right.
And we need to get back to some of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the schools have to be not a building, but a community. Mm-hmm. Schooling has to take place in the whole community, outside the school, in the shops, wherever, in a building. So that's not one place. So a student that decides on a plan for themselves, that this is what they think they want to do, because kids don't really know anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, and that should be a journey itself. If a student says to me, I don't know what I want to do, then your project is to learn what you want to do. We're going to explore a lot of different places.
You know, if I was an architect for this school of the 21st century, and I'm not, but I would design it something like Epcot, where it would be a village, and you would just kind of have all these storefronts, and you wanted to learn French, you go into the French pavilion. You're interested in science, you go into the science pavilion, and you just kind of wander around and discover things, and then it becomes an adventure instead of these buildings that we have now for the last 100 years are more like prisons. I mean, they look not so much today, but the schools of 60 or 70 years ago, you might as well put bars on the windows. I mean,
yeah, I think that. I kind of agree with you, John, that the school needs to be set up so that it's flexible enough so every student can follow their dream. And there's a way to do it, by the way. The listeners may say, well, how are you going to do that? But when you think about that, what happens is you think in terms of how you went to school. Don't think of that. Think of we have to think way outside the box. The school has to be designed in a whole different way. And I think you're partially right. And we're going to design a new school,
right?
And it's got to be much more flexible in this one, and create a lot of ability and movements.
Right. Yeah, I just think when you go to Epcot, there's a sense of wonder, or any place. It's wonder. You know, what's in there? What's in that? Why? You know, when you're going to different locations, flexible places, you're not stuck in a classroom, and you just become curious, and you become stimulated, and I just think, how do you learn about a country? Well, you walk down the street, you talk to somebody, you pick up a magazine, you go here, you go there, you grab here, you grab from there, and that's a learning.
See, I kind of agree with you, John. In the school that I envisioned, when you talk about the languages, that you set up a little village.
Right.
And if you're teaching French, you have a little French village, kind of like, and if you're Spanish and so forth, and you teach it through that medium where everything, you get immersed totally in that environment.
Yeah, you got, everything looks like you're in Spain, everything looks like you're in France, and then if the atmosphere creates an ambience that you're stimulated. It's not just opening a book and writing down your vocabulary words.
Well, the same token is that you also provide opportunities for kids to be immersed in that. Now, I don't say we send every kid to France.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be a bad idea if you could.
Yeah.
You know, at least partially on a 6-week immersion program where you could. If you could do that, that would be a great idea.
All
but
right.
there's ways we're going to figure those things out.
Well, I want to thank Frank Gargiulo for being on Super's Corner today. I'm your moderator, John Pluchino. We're broadcasting from WHITradio.org. Thank you, Dave Richards, in the studio there for producing this. And in the future, we're going to have call-ins. So we'll give you that number as soon as we can set that up. So thanks for listening. Thank you, Frank, and have a great day.